back, Planeswalkers, to another episode of the Hive Mind. My name is Jon Dunning. This is the show where I traverse the multiverse in search of other prominent members of the Magic the Gathering community. And today I pulled out quite a larger-than-life member of the community, but more on that in a second. First off, since we're traversing, why don't you head on over to cardsphere.com. That's right, cardsphere.com is simply the best place to buy, sell, and trade your paper Magic the Gathering cards online. Also, you could head on over to inkedgaming.com, get a custom playmat for the Hive Mind or 10th Street Hooligans, enter promo code HiveMindMTG to receive 10% off your purchase. Also, if you want to listen to this podcast form only, you could go over to constructivecriticism.com. You could also support the show directly on Patreon. Become a patron and you get to do awesome things like ask the special guest questions, like we shall be doing later on this episode. Planeswalking in from Chicago, Illinois, I have Josh, better known as TheProxyGuy. Thank you so much for joining me, sir.
My pleasure. It's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome. Yeah, man. I think I told you online. I was just like, man, I've always wanted to have you on, but at this point, I finally feel like the show is deserved enough to have someone of your caliber on, sir.
I don't know about deserved. I'm not that good.
I mean, pretty great, man. I decided on having special guests. I kind of went into this blind. I have a special guest with me, a Founders Rubius, accompany me through this.
I've got a 312.
Okay.
Chicago beer no longer made in Chicago.
Right. Was that one of the ones that was picked up by Budweiser?
They just started brewing it in New York instead of Chicago.
Oh, okay. What is it, pale ale or pilsner?
Kind of it's a wheat, but more towards a pale ale. It's got the grapefruitiness that, you'd come to expect from a pale ale. It's good. It's a nice, it's a good drinking beer.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a little bit warmer outside, even in the Pacific Northwest, which is really funny because it wasn't like a week and a half ago that it was snowing again. I'm like, it's March. What the heck is going on? But today it's like a nice 82, and the sun's out. I'm not a big fan of the sun, coming from California to Vegas to here. But sure. Man, after months and months of constant cloud cover, it is a nice treat. So it's nice today, but I hope that it goes away tomorrow.
It's 50 here currently.
Nice.
And
yeah,
that's warm. We just had 4 inches of snow fall and disappear on Sunday. So.
Oh, geez. All right. Well, as I like to do to kind of start these out, I like to know, what is the biggest way, Josh, that Magic the Gathering has affected your life in a positive way?
Well, I've been playing since like 95, 96. As far as positivity is the community and just being able to find a niche or something that I'm gratefully good at, that caught on and people enjoy and like to see. So without the community behind it, I probably wouldn't be involved with the game whatsoever at this point.
I couldn't agree with you more. This community gets a lot of flack sometimes, but it also can do some of the best things that I've seen in any kind of creative community. So absolutely. What is your Magic origin story? Are you a oldie like me, or did you kind of find the game kind of later on?
Well, I mean, I graduated high school before the game came out, so I was a bit older, but my friends had started playing it, and back then you used every single card that you owned in your deck.
Absolutely.
And they would sit and play, and I was like, I'm not getting into that. I have no interest in it whatsoever. And then it just kind of snowballed into, there weren't LGSs then, so you would hang out at arcades or the video game stores that existed at the time. And I met a guy there. We started playing, started understanding the game a little bit more as far as what we should be looking for as far as cards are. Eventually found a shop, started playing on, strangely enough, Fridays. But it just turned into probably about a good 14 or 15 straight months of playing 4 nights a week, long before, FNM existed or any of that, really. So, and then got out of it for a very long time, unfortunately. Came back a couple times and have been back since Scars at this point.
Were you playing when they were selling like Alpha Beta new, or was it a little bit after that?
No, it was let's see. I started playing when you could buy a booster pack of Arabians for $45.
Oh, geez.
So, the Dark was just out of print.
Okay.
I started prior to like Italian Legends
Mhm.
or Chronicles, 4th edition. So in between, prior to Fallen, basically, in between the Dark and Fallen is that time frame.
I started around like Ice Age. It
Hmm.
wasn't very intuitive back then. Like, I feel like it went like it was super intuitive when it was just the core sets, revised and all that. But then
Sure.
when they threw in Legends, it was still pretty readable. But then Ice Age came out, the Dark came out, and you had those giant walls of text and anti and all this crap. It was
Mhm.
kind of hard to follow, and I think it lost a lot of people. So I think that was where, later on down the road, like something like a New World Order was kind of needed to kind of
Yeah.
clean that up a little bit.
Yeah. Tournament play was very, very different because you didn't really have a judge. You just had, you know, someone who'd been playing longer answer questions. So
Yeah.
you'd get the errata list, which doesn't even exist anymore. Every couple of months, they'd send out this is how this card works now. This is how that card works now. They're not the way that they were. So it's very different now where you can just yell for a judge and you're going to, or pull out your phone if you're playing at the table and you have the answer. And so there's a lot of different gameplay mechanics than as you tried to interpret what they were trying to get you to do.
The longer the text went, kind of the worse the card was too. It was almost like it was trying to over explain, hey, this,
Yeah.
sacrifice this to pay this, and then you have to, jump on one foot and do all this. It was really the cleaner cards anyways that were the desirable ones. Like even like Fallen Empires, it's just like, I want to play an Order of the Ebon Hand. I don't want to play an Ebon Parader.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Even
Yeah.
if it had the Easter Bunny on it, which was that, what was going on with that art, man?
Uh, it's not the art. I want to know what was going on with the decision that was the art that they would use for that. They can just pick a painting.
Yeah. There's so much going on in there, but then you had one of my favorite arts of all time. I missed I'm gonna butcher the name, the Foglios, the
Foglio.
Foglios.
Yeah.
I love Sulphur Falls is one of my favorite. You just have this kind of androgynous and gender ambiguous devil, just kind of chilling in a bubbling muck, so to speak.
Exactly. Exactly.
I miss the whimsy a little bit, the bouncing beebles
Well,
and all that.
it's still there. It's just we've moved more towards a realistic interpretation
Mm-hmm.
because it's just different art directors. They have a definitive look that they're going for. That in the past they would just literally give artists a list of card names and say, "What do you want to paint?"
Yeah, what is Charizard supposed to look like? Well, here you go.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. What is Mishra's Workshop? Is it a land? We have no idea. Just do it.
Yeah, and now make all the seasons of it. Yeah,
Exactly.
so, what was you said you were playing what I like to call trash bag magic too, because
Sure.
I think that's how you all should start. Like everyone should kind of start as you get, you put all your color specifics together, and you're like, hey, I got the white deck that's like 100 and 40,000 cards.
Yep.
Man, if there was Battle of the Wits back then, we could have made a killing.
Yeah. Exactly.
But yeah, you played trash bag magic back then. What kind of turned into your favorite format?
Well, this was. I mean, there was only a single format, realistically.
Sure.
Was Type 1, now called Vintage. So if you were playing against that, and it didn't matter if you had your 400 card green deck that you hoped to find your Stream of Life in. You were playing against Weissman's the deck or some tuned 60 card power deck. That's just the tournament scene. So that's my genesis in tournament play. So Vintage and Type 1 always hold a very, very high mark. I guess old school is basically the format that I played then,
Mhm.
as it would be played now. So I know more about that format and the nuances of it because that's when I played the most tournament Magic. So yeah, Vintage for sure. As I come back to the game, I kind of approached it the same way as the first time, where it was, I don't want to play Commander. That's stupid. Or, I don't want to play Modern. And now, Commander's fantastic.
Yeah.
There's no better format sit down with a stranger and just start to play. There's a better format in Cube, but
Sure.
Commander's a great, just break the ice. Let's not play something that you're only going to play for 4 turns and, shake hands and walk away. But that's the community aspect of it, is being able to create a format that, Wizards has to take notice of and say, we got to make stuff for this because people really want to play it.
Absolutely. I totally echo what you say about Commander 2, because it is the ultimate icebreaker too. You can literally walk into a shop that you've never been in and just put your deck on and like put your commander in the middle. And people can walk by and be like, oh, an Athreos deck. Let's go to town.
Exactly.
It's so cool. It does the handshaking for you. It really helps with people that have, social anxieties. Not everyone is outgoing. But that's what really helps. And it's not like you don't walk into an LGS and like plop down your modern deck and be like, hey, come at me, bro.
Let's play this. Yeah. So one other person in there that actually wants to play modern casually.
Yeah. Right. What about some of those? So I guess what's your favorite deck then of back in the day or now? What kind of style of play do you like?
Well, there are some members of the community that won't enjoy hearing it, but Burn, absolutely, because
Nice.
It's Burn on one hand because that's what I had the most success with. It's what I know how to play, because I don't really care what you're doing. I know how my deck works and how it's going to go, and I still play that in Standard now because I know how to play it. I like grief decks, so I played Land Destruction when you could, because it was a necessary part of the game. There was so much control. There were things that no other deck could do against control that Land Destruction could. So you can't have Land Destruction decks anymore in the same way where you're using spells to destroy lands instead of lands or full sweepers.
Sure.
So, and in Commander right now is Brea, because I like building puzzle decks. It's assembling 10 pieces instead of 2 just to see what can happen. And I didn't build it in the yes, it's got a lot of good stuff in it, but it's not intended to, run away with the game by turn 4. It's plenty disruptable, where I might get something through that you're not expecting, and that's where I enjoy Magic. When someone has to stop and go, oh, I didn't plan for that one thing that you did.
Were you playing like Earn a Get 'em back in the day, or were you more like Rain of Tears, turn 2, turn 3 into Stone Rain?
I didn't actually play much red Land Destruction. When I started playing, when Type 2 came around, was right. Type 2 was out for, I don't know, months by the time we decided, I was moving away from the game at that point. So yeah, Earnamageddon, but like not as forceful as the pros were doing, because they weren't using like Stunted Growth, which is another complete griefer card that if you hit, back to back on, they're just going to scoop, and it's just instant salt. So, but yeah, Ice Age did allow for some, because they had, the green and the black Land Destruction spell still. So it was that, trying to jam like Demonic Consultation in to see if that ever worked, or trying Necropotence and not ever really understanding how to use that. But that was right at the end, right after Homelands, pretty much was, or right after Alliances, was that first swan song.
It's such a, not only the game has come such a long way, like we alluded to when talking about Walls of Text and just design space, but what the individual colors could do have come just such a far way. Grandest evolution that we've had seen a color is in black, where black used to be your ramping color, right? I mean,
absolutely.
Dark Ritual, Bubbling Muck, it was just all these things, and then you would kind of build up into a big Drain Life or a Corrupt or something like that, and just can't, you don't have that anymore.
No. But that's a good thing, because the Black Ritual on color now would definitely cost you life.
Sure, yeah,
because that's much more on color, and a ritual. I mean, they use the fantasy aspect of Ritual rather than the game mechanic of Ritual. It made sense for black to use a ritual to gather mana, but they didn't quite at the beginning know what the color pie was. And that just led to, I mean, Dark Ritual became such a ubiquitous card that they printed it forever. Like they had to put Dark Ritual in because no one was going to play black without it. But every black deck had 4 Dark Rituals in it because it's one of the best cards ever printed. So
Yeah.
and now it's just, the ramp has changed dramatically where you're ritualing in red, which then became a problem, and they keep trying to put it back, but it's not the same as that first turn, ritual, hypnotic specter, sinkhole.
Oh, I miss those days.
Like, good game. There's nothing you could do about it. So, yeah, that's Magic to me. Is some people know it's too fast. It's a 1-turn format, and it's not really, but
right.
It is fun to take 7 cards and go to 0 cards and basically be winning the game by your second turn. It's just that's a visceral experience.
Yeah, with all my blood pets and my lotus petals and just casting a huge drain life by a game-ending drain life by turn 2 in standard. What's wrong with that? I mean,
exactly.
I think it's fine.
Nothing not hot now.
Yeah, Dark Ritual is one of the cycle too. That was the 1 for 3. That was the ancestor. That was the black ancestral recall, right?
Yeah. Only ancestral was rare.
Oh, that's crazy.
The other 3 are common.
Yeah. Yeah, Bolt. I mean, Bolt is
Lightning Bolt,
Healing Salve,
Healing Salve, Giant Growth, and what are we missing?
We got Bolt, we got Ritual, and then Ancestral Recall. We got them, and then Giant Growth, which I'm surprised. Giant Growth seemed to have the longest life out of all of them, but I haven't seen Giant Growth printed since I think Gate Crash. So
it's been a long time because Infect became a thing, and you can't really have Giant Growth, right?
Right.
No, there's other obvious stand-ins for it, but Giant Growth, again, playing it in 1996 versus playing it now, anyone that left then and comes back now, the timing of it is exactly backwards as it would be then. So it's a very strange experience for people. One of my buddies that moved out east came back and he's like, all my stuff keeps dying that I'm trying to use Giant Growth to save, and I'm like, it works backwards now.
Yeah.
The way that the game was played doesn't function that way anymore. So
right.
It took him a while to kind of understand when you're supposed to do it to save the creature.
Yeah. Someone just tried to. I was playing someone. I was goldfishing against one of my coworkers in my standard decks that I made, and he tried to do the whole. Remember, like when Mog Fanatic, you could do damage and then sack it to do the one.
Yeah, because they use this damage uses stack. Yeah.
Yeah, he tried to do that with the Fanatical Firebrand. I think he tried to block it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, but I the fact that you did that makes me feel warm and fuzzy and nostalgia, but no.
It's like Fanatic, but it's not like Fanatic.
Yeah. What were some of those early pulls? I'm sure, like, going back, opening booster packs and all that back then, I'm sure you ripped some pretty good stuff.
You open enough packs, eventually you're going to have very good packs. Most of what I was buying was revised starters and boosters, and you would get, like, you didn't want a dual iron because you didn't know what it was. You wanted a big spot. You wanted Lord of the Pit or Force of Nature. You wanted something to be like, this card is much better than those other ones. So I can't tell you how many, like, Wheels or Soul Rings or Demonic Tutors I opened because it was probably a lot of them. They're all uncommon.
Sure.
But I bought 1 pack of the Dark. 2. I bought 2 packs of the Dark from what was the name of that store? It's a magazine. Starlog had a store in the mall that I worked at, and they were selling them for like $6 a pack. And I bought 2 and got Blood Moon and Maze of Ith.
Ooh.
So that was a pretty good 2-pack. But I mean, I never bought. I had friends buy Italian Legends or the shop that we went to would allow you to, that still had those $45 Arabians packs. They would let you look at them first, which was good because the uncommon is on top and you can see it straight through the package. So they just went through them and went, okay, I'm buying a library and King Suleiman.
Yeah,
you could see it. So I saw someone open a pack fresh library that they knew what was in the pack, and they wanted King Suleiman at the time. So
sure. Well, because what did King Solomon do? It's like you tap him and a couple
I
of
think
things
you can bounce the Freets. I'd
That's
have
it.
to look it up.
That's
I
it.
think you
Yeah.
can bounce the Freets and Jins.
I remember it being relevant, and like I was reading some of the cards like lately, and that was one of the ones that pulled up. I'm like, God, I remember when this did something. Now it does nothing.
Yeah, well, it might in old school because Serendib Freed is still used, but
Sure.
that's not the only format that card is used.
What are some of the cool stories from back in the day playing with those powerful cards?
Well, I eventually did get a set of power, and at that point, and that's basically where proxying started. Was even then, power was like you get a mox for like $80-$90, but that was like infinite money. You were never spending $90 on a single card.
Sure.
Or $150 for a Lotus was outrageous. So I think I've told the story before, but it's my favorite individual, ego-driven Magic story that I have. Was I was playing in a tournament at the store that we would go to, Type 1, and I'm on burn. I don't know what my opponent's on, and at that point, you still drew. When you didn't have a, do you want to draw or do you want to play?
Mm-hmm.
You drew. So if you won the die roll, it was like impossible to lose because you would start with 8 cards. so I start and I'm looking at my hand, and I'm not paying too close attention to it, and I look at it and I'm like, oh, I've got Land, Soul Ring, Copper Tablet. I'm happy. Like that's my pet card. No one looks for it. So I'm looking at it and it's like, I don't know, Volcanic Island, Soul Ring, Copper Tablet, and I'm like, fine, I'll do that. So I put those out, and then I look at the rest of my hand, and it's Stormseeker, Lotus, Bolt, Bolt, Bolt. So I go, Lotus? Crack it, bolt you 3 times? He's like, I'm at 10.
Wow.
Copper Tablet. So I'm holding Stormseeker. I can't cast it because I have Land, Soul Ring, right?
Yeah.
So he goes, Island, go. Top deck, Taiga. I go, Taiga, go.
Yeah.
He takes his from the Copper Tablet, goes to draw. I'm like, during your draw step, Stormseek you for 8.
Oh my god.
The table, the match to the left of me, the opponent hadn't arrived yet, and we had finished game 1. That was just one of those. I didn't play when you could play with 4 channels, so I've never done the channel fireball first turn, but that was the best feeling, to just roll over someone, just be like, yeah, I played 2 islands and that was the game.
And I won, yeah. Did he quit Magic? Or not just the game, but did he quit?
Oh, no. He won game 2.
Oh.
He got like turn 3 Serendib Jin.
Oh, sure.
3-4 islands out. I'm like, I can't kill that. And then I took it game 3, but I don't remember what happened game 3. It was just that first game of not paying attention to my hand and going, ooh, Copper Tablet first turn, and then going, oh, but I can do more. I was never a patient burn player where I would say, maybe he'll play a creature, I should save some of that. It was like, nope, it's all the face. Race it to the end and hopefully beat you there.
Well, I mean, yeah, you're a great burn player then. Yeah, and see, that's what I'm saying. It's like people were just like, oh, it's so broken, but like you said, he took game 2. I mean, it's not every day that's like the nuttest of the nut draws. You can't expect that.
I probably couldn't have ever asked for the top 9 cards of the deck to be better than those ones.
How much Magic are you playing these days, Josh?
Not much in paper. When I make it to a GP, I'll play Commander. I have been big into Arena because I can just sit here and play. And best of 1 is the best thing for me because I don't have an attention span anymore and I don't care about sideboards. And Burn is a perfect best of 1 scenario because Burn doesn't do good in games 2 and 3.
Yeah.
So I can have success with Burn because no one is packing Hate main deck in best of 1 yet. So it's good.
Are you going Rakdos Burn or just like straight red?
It's straight red. I very recently started playing with the idea of putting the Drake that gets pumped with instants and sorceries in the graveyard. I was using Rekindling Phoenix, which is very good, to get out of bolt range, and the drakes are 4. So if they don't have lava coil, it's game. Like they're not going to beat it. So the new challenge deck that's coming out, it's almost exactly that. It's just, yeah, and I like the strategy of it is figuring out, do I fanatical turn 1, or do I use the 1/2 guy turn 1 so I can double fanatical turn 2 and swing for 3. It's just it's a fun deck to play, and Allegiance just put too many good cards into it to not look at it viably. When you're putting 2 different spells into a deck that either bash you for 4, or I draw 3 cards, or I just look at 2 cards and can cast them, and they're just putting gas in it. It's fantastic.
Yeah, literal gasoline on these cards.
Yeah.
Isn't it great to be playing with Delver again? I mean, Terramander is basically, it's like playing with Delver Secrets all over again. It's just fantastic. And you don't just have to play a burn with it, although that's very good. You could play like I have a Dimir deck where it's just like a bunch of surveil, just fill up the graveyard, because then you can play the dumb spy bug too.
Yeah.
It's just so much fun, and I don't know why Ravnica is always the brewer's paradise, and I don't know why some people are just like, oh, Standard's terrible now. I'm like, no, Standard was terrible like 2 years ago. Like with
Energy screwed up Standard real bad.
Great quitting, because it was just it's fantastic now. You could do what you want. You could play control, you could play mid range, you could play burn, you could definitely play aggro. It's just so much fun. I mean, when mono blue stack of stuff is winning, major tournaments, that's when Standard is in a good place.
That's my favorite matchup. That deck can't beat burn.
Right? Yeah,
it just can't. First turn Terramander, I'm like, kill it with fire with fanatical. Like, you don't have anything else in your hand. I'll play a creature, do nothing, and just attack you for 1 every turn for the rest of the game. They're holding all 7 counter spells, and I'm like, I'm just not casting anything.
Yeah.
Like, you'll tap out and I'll bolt you 3 times. Like, that's my favorite matchup is mono blue aggro against burn.
Sure. Absolutely. Let's jump on over to a little bit more about yourself and what's your passion and what you bring to the table as far as the community goes. So let's talk about your origins as an artist, as who's your influences and what got you into just art in general.
Drawing, basically. Always was sketching or doodling or something just to pass the time. Transition that into art classes in high school that I didn't do very well at, because I'm not a good finished piece artist. I like to sketch something. I'd be a better like early concept artist than I would ever be a finished piece. I'm just I don't have the acumen or the attention span anymore to sit there and go, yeah, I like this as is, but I can do 90% more work and it would be fine, but I'm fine. And then that just transitioned with proxy making was completely different when I started doing it, because there weren't any tools available to do it. You basically were, they used to have a book called the Magic Encyclopedia that had like 1-inch scans of every card. And I was like, I want to get that to scan them so I can blow them up and then have a slightly better one. Photoshop didn't exist, or if it did, it was, $1 zillion and anything done with it. So eventually some programs came out that would kind of do it for you a little bit. And then when I came back with Scars, that's when that took off. But as far as the artistic eye, people will say I've always had it. I don't know if I agree necessarily, but it has certainly helped design-wise to deconstruct what Wizards has done with the card and then apply my own vision to it and say, that's good. I like it a little bit better this way. And think of it more of a remix than a redo. Because I don't, I can make token templates just fine, but if you said recreate a magic card and make it look like a magic card but use none of their elements, I don't think I could. There's something that makes a card look like a card to people. And for Wizards' credit, they've done it very good for a very long time, save for the one frame that wasn't a magic card. Because I've studied it so much that it's a fine thing. It's just, it doesn't scream Magic the Gathering at any point.
Did you take a personal offense when everyone's like, that looks like a proxy guy thing? I remember hearing that a lot on Twitter, back when that set was released. I'm like, no, it doesn't. He does way better work.
I wouldn't have been able to come up with something like that. And the design aspect that they chose was fine. You're looking out of the window at the scene of whatever it is. They didn't follow the art doesn't necessarily follow that for all of the cards, which kind of makes it less cohesive. But I mean, I don't think I would have taken it and said, let's shrink the art. Let's make it a little bit smaller, and let's center all the rules text even on modal cards so it looks all funky. It's just, there's some design ideas that they use that just it's like a by committee card. We're going to do it this, and then you get this part of the card, and then we're going to do our part over there, and then it just kind of came together. I was actually, when Inventions were first spoiled, the first one I saw was on Twitter, and it was just the thumbnail, and I had been doing like orange like multicolor cards for a while, and I'm like, that looks like one of mine. And then I looked at it, I'm like, oh, it's nothing like mine. It's better. Like that's my favorite frame they've done in a very long time.
Yeah.
It's actually very interesting. I should go back and find the tweet. Vehicles had been spoiled or previewed several days earlier, right? And I was like, what is this frame? It's brown with black rivets. This isn't. They should have done something like filigree. So I literally need to go back because I mocked up. I took the Kaladesh set symbol, and it's kind of filigree-ish. And I kind of moved it around to make it a frame around the outside of it. And then 2 days later, they come out with their filigree frame. I was like, oh, that's why they didn't do it for vehicles. It was just very interesting to be like, yeah, I don't need to do things too close to what they're doing. Like, sure. That's when I'll be asked to stop. Like, no, that's coming out. You need to quit. So that's why I try to only redo what they've already done and try not to push too far forward.
Yeah, and I argue that you make the art, you showcase the art even better. Is you enhance it in a way where WotC has to go, or Wizards has to go off certain templates because it is a playable game.
Sure.
Where you can make whatever piece of art that you're showcasing and just make it pop in a way that they kind of can't outside of something like a masterpiece set or whatever. But even that has to be beholden to the rules of itself.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you get to just be like, this art right here is speaking to me, and now it looks like this, and that's pretty freeing and pretty incredible.
It is, and that's usually my response when people are like, why hasn't Wizard hired you yet? Well, I don't really want to be tethered to whatever they need me to do.
Sure.
They're not going to say, welcome aboard, do whatever you want. It's just never going to happen, right? Because I'll come up with something, they'll be like, we can't print that. But that's what I came up with. So it's not something that I'm interested in doing, is saying, instead of just being the person that does the work instead of being the person creating the work.
Absolutely. What was your first proxy that you made, and what is your process of picking out which art to make?
Well, my first one probably was like a Sharpie time walk in 1996 on an island.
Nice.
On an island. And then I played over the phone because I was so happy. I'm like, can we use proxies? Like, I'm going to make a time walk. The first card I ever made, I don't know, my buddy might still have it. So way, way, way back. This is the same time frame, like 96. Animaniacs was still real big, right?
Oh, I love Animaniacs.
I found an image online. Someone had mocked up the Brain from Pinky and the Brain, like Hill Giant or something. And I remember printing that. And like trying to figure out how I can, but I printed it to the card. Like I didn't put it on a sticker or anything. So that would have been like, I probably erased all of the art off of like a revised land and just threw it. It was black and white because color printing was way too expensive then.
Sure.
So that was probably my first like print on a card thing. Coming back, I couldn't tell you what was first. I know what the first digital one I did when I came back to the game was Mox Opal, because I was like, I'm make a mock opal because I have Photoshop and I understand how this works. And then I did an exact copy of it. And I'm like, that's probably not what I should be doing. I should do things slightly different and not like just make, like, what's the purpose of making a copy except to know how they did it, right?
Sure.
So as far as picking a piece, it's so on Patreon, people can say, hey, I'd like to see this card. And I try to say, please don't tell me like the frame and the art and the this and that. Give me the card name. Let me run with it. We'll see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
But aside of that, it's maybe an idea will just pop in my head, or I'll just be sorting through. Like I've been looking at a lot of the Magic Online only arts lately and saying, this could be cool on a card. Maybe a lot of people haven't seen this piece of art or even know it exists. So I've been doing a little bit of that, but it's not as it's a very organic thing. It's not a today I'm doing dual land and tomorrow I'm doing power and the day after that I'll do dual lands again. It's just whatever is my fancy. And if I sit there and I have Photoshop open and I'm staring at it for 10 minutes, I'll just close it. There's no point in trying to push something that's just not going to be there. Even if I had a good idea, if it's just not working, it's just push it away, come back tomorrow. The fortunate part of what I do is I have a small schedule of I need something by Monday, and as long as that happens, people for the most part are content. So I do it every day, except that would probably be because I always try to push to do something slightly better than previously. And if I was doing it that frequently, that would just burn out very quickly and want to just walk away from it.
Sure.
Even if the work was catching up, eventually mentally, I just wouldn't be able to.
Does it mean more to you, or do you have more enjoyment in it when doing something that has like a card that's been important to you? Like I know you just released the image of the Lotus that you just did. If everyone on your Patreon for whatever reason says, I want you to do a Hill Giant, would you be like, oh, cool? Like, or is it those kind of bigger cards or more meaningful cards to you that kind of fuel your engine a little bit more?
It's less about the card for me. I obviously want to do something that people are going to enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
That one person might love that Hill Giant, and everyone else will go, why are you making a Hill Giant? But the process is the fun part. The finished piece is the finished piece. As soon as it's done, it exists. People might say it's great. At that point, I've moved on. I'm looking at whatever's going to happen next. I want to be ahead of the bleeding edge. So even a Hill Giant or a basic land can pose a new challenge, because there's an infinite number of ways to, even with Wizards frames, to display a Magic card.
Mm-hmm.
There's not enough time in my life to do one of everything. If all I did was planes for the rest of my life, no two would be the same, because that's just how it is. There's so much variety in the 100 frames or whatever they've used overall to there's always something different that you can do in that tiny space.
If you were to pick out of all the pieces that you've done, what has been your favorite one that you made and you're just like, this is it, this is my holy grail, so to speak, and then a couple other ones that you had affection for whatever reason?
I mean, as far as a holy grail goes, I would always try to put that one in the future. I want something coming to be better than what was. But
Nice.
Because you, it's like, I think a painter might be the same way. They might really like a section of what they worked on because they remember it fondly and it worked and everything they were trying to do did it. So the process was there. Because the process is so important to me, I'm not necessarily looking at the finished result in the same way that other people are. And digitally, I'll say, yeah, that one came out pretty good. When I print them, they're because I'm fortunate enough to see all of my work. Not everybody gets to do it.
Yeah.
So, but I don't realize that, if someone was in the room just watching them come off the printer and they'd be like, that one's sick, that one's sick, that one's sick. I'm just like, that one was work. That one was sick. So
Yeah.
Fundamentally, I'm different in that regard. But some of my favorites that I've done are the ones that I get to do for people's cubes, especially cycles. So it's usually like power, dual lands, whatever,
Sure.
where they just say do something. And then I can do something and keep them out of the loop until they physically open their mail and they're sitting there. So Nate Weber's dual lands that I did for him for his cube after he got rid of his collector's edition because they're expensive. Those ones I liked a lot because I got to give them to him in person at GP Minneapolis, and I got to see his reaction to seeing them for the first time. And I did something completely different on those. The printing process was totally different and very difficult. So it was a challenge to do all that. And then it was another one to just be like, can't really show anybody until it's time. Those ones stand out in you're waiting all day to get to that moment where you're like, here's your cards. And then they're just like because I very rarely get that experience of seeing the visceral response. So that one was special. I like that one a lot.
That is so cool. I mean, some of my personal favorites are, and not just because like I just saw this, so that's my last, that's my favorite because the last thing I saw. But the basic lands that you did for the guilds are just so cool. Like I don't know, I'm a big basic land type person too. Like I was just guesting on someone else's podcast and they asked me my favorite art, and most of the time it's basic lands. I just love the magic landscapes. And like you said a few minutes before, there's just so much that you could do with someone just say plains go, or someone just say swamp, create, and just people's different takes on it and the setting. It's just, I don't know. I just love it. And dual lands as well. But the ones that you made for the guilds were just breathtaking. And I was just like, God, these are just right up my alley. Those were awesome.
Those were a lot of work. You can tell that I did the Gruul lands last and literally probably put 15 minutes. I was so tired of doing them. It was just like, what can I do with Gruul? We'll just take the eye and put it in the corners. All right, I'm done. Because the first ones were the Azorius, which were some of the harder ones. Azorius and Golgari were really, because I recreated everything that you see in the guild pack basics. So I took the official text box and then recreated it in Vector and then embellished everything else to fill out the whole card. So some of them worked very well, but by the time I got to Golgari, or by the time I got to Gruul, I'm like, well, he didn't do a whole lot of work on this one either. So this one will be easier. But yeah, he didn't. The official ones don't necessarily use the guild symbols in the shape that they are. Right. They're stretched out, they're moved, elements are missing. Yeah, those were a lot of fun to do. And then people were like, do the cons lands.
You do the cons lands.
I can't do a basic land with 3 different elements in it. I'm not doing 30 basic lands. I'm sorry. It's not happening.
Yeah, I don't know, those Dimir ones, man. I couldn't stop looking at those. The Rakdos ones too. It's like, oh.
I think the Simic ones are probably my favorite, only because the colors just were.
Yeah.
They worked really, really well. I was proud of the embellishment that I did on that. The Dimir ones are very similar with that because, they take the eye out of the center of it to put the mana symbol in. So where can I put that? Well, I'll put it up here. And then figuring out how he, added a bevel or did those things, that was the interesting part of it. But yeah, that was a remarkable amount of work. Probably an hour of design, easy. Probably some of them were way more than that, because it would have been interesting to see like a time lapse of how many of the design parts I just threw away because they weren't working.
I mean, the Gruul ones still were amazing, but it's so on theme that the Gruul ones were just like, okay, and here's the Gruul. It's thrown together, like move on.
So it was. Yes, it was not a lot of work. It was like, oh, I am done. Finished.
So somewhere and meter.
Like the other 9, it's great.
Yeah. So I mean, you are absolutely, I consider you like a true artist, a real artist. You and Jeffrey Palmer, very underrated as well in this community, are both like master altruists. You do it in more of a tactile way, where he takes the magic art and creates animations with it that are like just as breathtaking.
Mhm.
What is, I mean, there are some people out there, especially in content creation, that are just at the top of the heap. There's always the best person at something, and in
Mhm.
my opinion, you are the best Magic artist as far as a community member goes. What does that mean to you?
It means an awful lot because I've always pushed myself to. It's very humbling to be considered the best at something. I've obviously pushed myself to try to be the best at it. I'm at least doing the best that I can, and it's at least translating. It's been a it's one of those things about success is it is much more. It's hard work, as you'll hear an actor say it's all hard work, whatever. No, it's it's luck when it
Yes.
comes down to it. You can do all of the work and you can put it out in front of people, but if that one right person sees it, that starts everything moving. So obviously for Jeff, it worked. He's working for Channel Fireball. So um, for me, it was the old MTG Salvation forums. I was on their proxy thing, and I started doing uh, reimagined beta cards, taking modern cards and messing with the text and putting them in the old frame and finding an old piece of art that kind of fit. And did a faithless looting. And at forums they got that little thing at the bottom, and they're like, X amount of people are viewing, and here's all the registered viewers. And it was normally like 6, 7 people. It went to like 50. I'm like, so I put it. I'm like, what happened? Oh,
Mhm.
Evan Irwin put your faithless looting on Twitter. I'm like, oh, I didn't know about Twitter. I didn't know who Evan was. Started Twitter soon after that, and uh, came up with the name, and that was that spark that people paid attention to. So at first it was keep feeding that. Let's do more of those beta cards. You're just giving people what they've already liked, and now I'm much more. Hopefully, you like what I'm doing. I'm not trying to make it so it gets the most amount of impressions. I'm putting it out there because there's now enough people in the audience that they can make that decision whether or not they like it, and that's fine. Um, but yeah, if you just sit there and you only fulfill requests and fulfill requests and fulfill requests, well, you're just doing the work. There's no joy in it. They
Mhm.
might love the final piece, but you just did it because they asked you to do it instead of making it your own and then sharing it.
As stated everywhere, and this is the biggest thing that I think people have a problem with. Your work is not for sale,
No,
Josh.
it is not.
Your work is
Some of
not
it
for sale. Your work is not for sale. One more time, your work
is not for sale.
is not for sale. However, you have found a way for people to support the work that you do, and that's on Patreon.
Yes.
So, what existing and potential patrons, what can they expect with their contributions?
Well, due to the nature of what I do, I can't. There aren't reward tiers. There's not a mailing I can do. I can't send people cards because I can't take money for it. I started the Patreon after Wizards came out with their fan content policy that basically, if you read it, says, Proxy Guy, you're allowed to have a Patreon. As I read it. So I was like, okay. I was nervous about it, but so far, I've kept it basically the same since day one. Is The only difference now is every Monday morning, there'll be a new card posted. And a week after that, and a week after any card gets posted, it becomes available to the public. So you're getting a glimpse and a preview. You're also getting a little bit more access to get in my ear and say, hey, can you do this? Or I'd like to see something like that. With the monthly giveaways that I do on Twitter, every patron is just entered automatically. That's literally the only perk I can give them. They're not getting any preferential, top of the list. And then some of the Twitter people this last month was like 700 some people entered. So it's just that's my way of saying thank you for the support, for basically using Patreon as a tip. We like what you do. Please continue doing it. We'd like to help you continue to do so. And I adore every single person that takes the time to do that, because the support it's been overwhelming, because I would have expected like 3, 4 people, maybe like the same people that were in my group, and it's 200. And it's just like, that number doesn't make sense to me. It's, but I mean, in the future, there are some things in the works, like actually in the works, to do some crossovers with other content creators. Um, one that just came out was the game nights folks. Josh and Jimmy did tokens, and their Kickstarter's doing great. They're back to going to do all that. And if you want to buy some of my work, buy their tokens because I did the frame.
Oh, nice.
So,
that's awesome.
yeah, I did the frame and the card back. I didn't do any of the card art, but so yes, if you want to show them they did well by choosing me to do it, by all means, hit up their Kickstarter. I think the tokens look great, and I know they're doing them in regular and in foil. So
that's excellent.
So
and
some of my work is for sale. Just none of my MTG work is for sale.
Well, and that's my next question is, besides, I know you alluded to you wanted to make more original content, and by original content, I just mean art that you've created 100% or however you want to word that, I guess. But is that still in the works, or is the token making for other content creators? Was that kind of the route that you were taking?
Oh, I mean, that certainly helps because it's in my wheelhouse.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I understand what a card frame needs to carry to get the message across. And realistically, when you look at a lot of content creators' tokens that they have done, the frames aren't very good. The art is fine. They're commissioning good people to do the art. Some of them, like Star City, actually get permission to say, hey, we can put trample on it, or we can put death touch. Like but the frame has never been like what jumps out of the card at you. So that's what I enjoy doing. So whenever I get an option to work on something like that, I know I'm going to do better at that than if I tried to sit down and create something personal. Plus, I don't know what I would do with something personal. So much of my work is for the public. It's to be consumed by folks. It's to be viral or someone's favorite something. But it's not like I don't have much of my stuff laying around except for the cube that I did. So I'm much more comfortable when I'm creating something personal for other people, if that makes sense.
Sure.
I'm not really interested in like making a token frame for myself because I don't know what I would do with it.
Well, and a lot of folks' introduction to you initially was the very popular Thragtusk video on Ristic Studies channel. What was that experience like, and how did you feel receiving that kind of recognition and validation for the work that you were doing?
That was an hour and a half long conversation with Sam that I'm in the video for like 45 seconds.
I just rewatched it last night.
Yeah, it's I'm not in it very much. I don't think I sounded very good. It sounded like a phone call, which helped. But he came to me with the idea. He said, I'm doing frames. I'm like, great. He's like, I want to talk to you. I said, great. And then he came back afterwards and he's like, can you do like the Alt-8 thing and do another one? That Thragtusk one was a little bit earlier with the different languages. I mocked up a couple of those for him, but that frames one, I was surprised by the amount of people that were showing up on Twitter, like just immediately, like I'm not in that very long. Like, why are they coming to me for it? Sam's the one that did all that. The video is great. It's very informative, but like I didn't feel like I contributed very much to it, so it was very surprising to get that level. And then just I don't know, couple 2-3 weeks ago, maybe a month now, they did a command zone for blinged out decks, and I hadn't realized that one of the hosts, I had done a spur of the moment giveaway on cards that I had for cube prizes, and I told the community, tell me who should get them, and then I took all of those and pulled 2 randoms. One of them was a host of command zone, so I did a soul ring that ended up on the video for like 2 minutes. And that just exploded things like out of nowhere. It was like, because people are like, you wake up, you get to work, you go on Twitter, and people are like, good job on Command Zone. I'm like, I was on Command Zone? Like, I
Yeah.
didn't even know they did it. So, and then, I got to go find the video and I'm scrubbing through it real quick. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? And then I was just like, oh my Lord. Like yeah, but that blew up Patreon. That blew up Twitter. It's just, it surprises me every single time because I'm sheltered. I'm on the other side of the screen. I don't necessarily have like tons of people coming at me saying, hey, you want to do this? Hey, you want to do this? We think your stuff is great. You want to, it just doesn't happen. So when it does, it's just like, it's so eye opening at the reach that people have.
Yeah.
And the ability to just turn on a light switch. Like that blows my mind. Yeah. It's just, you're not expecting the accolade and then it happens and it's just so much more than you were expecting. And it's just like, do I have to start like behaving different now? Or like, obviously something I did caused people to
Yeah.
come on. And it's just like,
Do I have to
that's just
iron
like
my
the ball group.
t-shirts? Yeah.
Well, no. The command zone thing was like 50 DMs day one. Like, how can I buy your stuff?
Oh
Like,
no.
we told you on the video.
Damn
Like,
you.
they literally said he doesn't sell. People just think there's a workaround. Like, oh, it's wink wink, right? If I go into a DM, you'll do it. And it's like, no.
There's a password or a safe word like the
Yeah.
Rakdos
Yes.
shirt.
You
Yeah.
say the right thing, and that's no.
Oh, you've unlocked the yeah.
Yeah.
You
Because
should just start messing with like $4 million. That's
I
my
should do
yeah.
something like that. Oh, you want a Lotus? I need an entire set of beta. Like, what? That's too much. Go
Yeah.
buy beta.
Right.
There's going to only be one of these in the world versus your set of beta that there's thousands of.
Yeah. I need a rare water from the Alps, bottled in
Yeah.
baby's tears, and
Exactly.
I will give you the Lotus. In a world where there's literally an audience for everything, did you ever think about maybe turning on a webcam and filming your process? Try to hit, I guess, not only through Patreon and all that, but going that kind of content creation route, going over to video, or just podcasting or starting a podcast and talking about it more.
A podcast would probably be the best way. The problem with documenting the process is people are going to use that to do things that I don't want them to do.
Sure,
And I don't
absolutely.
want to be the one responsible for, you know, adding more counterfeits or proxies to websites that, someone's going to go, hey, I can profit off this because he's not. People obviously want to do it.
Yeah.
People are willing to buy them, obviously, so I'll do that. And I'm not going to be the person that says, hey, let me just shortcut you the 10 years that I've put into it so you can start it and I can report you next week. Like, I have no interest in doing that whatsoever. So,
Sure.
would it be nice to do? Yeah, it would be. I think I could do some interesting things as far as techniques, but I couldn't like stream my template and be like, look at all of this copyright material that I'm streaming. Here's how you manipulate that. It's like, that's probably not what needs to happen.
Sure.
So, but as far as like magic design or talking about, their latest design ideas or faux pas or wins, yeah, that would be a lot of fun. I just don't know if there would be that could be like a quarterly. I don't know if someone would look at that weekly and go, it's the same thing you said last week. Prints would suck. Yeah. They just don't put out enough new designs to merit that much discussion. At first, obviously, you can start with what did alpha look like? Take Sam's video and then just extrapolate it across, say, 10 or 15 episodes to really get down into it so that nobody would want to listen to it because you're talking about things that are very, very, very boring. And then the text box got slightly wider. Yeah,
Right.
that's very interesting.
Sure. And you said you hit up events quite frequently. Are you planning on hitting any events in 2019?
I try to hit them when I can.
Mhm.
The only one that I'm locked in for right now is Madison in Wisconsin, which is in the first weekend of May, I think. If Minneapolis happens, it happens. I've been the last couple of years. Minneapolis is a fantastic city. Most of what I do is local, and that's just finite resources means finite time available. So, as much as I'd love to go to more, I don't know what I could bring to it other than, hey, you're that guy. Shake your hand. Like, you really are that tall. So, but I go for the people who are attending, not necessarily let's see what happens when I go. And I say that, and then I'm thinking right now of GP Milwaukee in 2016. I don't remember. I decided to go because I would finally get a chance to meet Noah Bradley because he was going to be there to play. And as I'm standing at the table, Jeff and his buddies come over, and we just kind of struck it off, hit it up. We had a fantastic weekend together. It was just fortuitous that I had nobody that I was there to see except for Noah for like 10 minutes. And then it just turned into a wonderful weekend. And I'm happy to have made friends just being way outside of my comfort zone and saying, let's just see what happens. So
Awesome. Well, I mean, you're an honorary member of the BFF crew too, like the Tappy Toe Claws, the Olivia.
That's much more recent, but yeah. Yeah, that's I couldn't even tell you how that started. Like, I honestly don't know. That's terrible. I should know that. Like within the last year. Yeah, that's bad.
Yeah, they seem like very fun drinking buddies. I've only drank with both of them digitally, but in person. I wish you were coming to Seattle, man. Like,
it'd be interesting. That's a long flight.
Yeah. Have you ever been?
I've been to SeaTac for an hour. Yes, we were cruising, so we flew from Chicago to Seattle, and then took a puddle hopper to Vancouver to get on the boat. So I was there long enough to like have some fish, and then get on another plane. So what I saw of it, I enjoyed. I didn't get to see very much of it. Everybody says it's a great place, and I like rain, so Seattle would be a great place to be.
It really is, and it's kind of home court advantage as far as all the Magic stuff goes.
Yeah, exactly.
But we are now in the part of the episode where this is the patron question. So the amazing Rafael Garcia has asked, got the honors to ask this question of you, Josh. And he asks, so again, if you would like to support this show or all the other shows that I have going on this channel, become a patron. This is some of the cool perks that you get to do, is ask amazing guests like the Proxy Guy a question. You don't get to do that every day. So Raphael asks, your work is admired by hundreds, if not thousands of people in the community. Through it all, you remain quite a humble giraffe. How does it feel to know that you elicit strong reactions, positive and negative, of so many?
I guess I try not to think about it, to be honest with you, because again, the responses are to finished work. If I'm putting it out there, and I try not to put out the mistakes. I did that recently with something I double printed, which was stupid, but it forces you into a place where you realize that there's an audience of people who are going to see what you say when you hit send. That doesn't censor me in the way that, I shouldn't use this word and I should use that word, but it does make it so if I get into an argument, I either have to, a heated debate, we'll say, where someone is just, they're basically right on the edge of trolling. It's either try to be very calm digitally when I'm not physically, and because people are going to see that. And as much as you want to have that hot-headed response of, go jump in a lake or go pound sand, whatever, sometimes those are warranted. Other times it's just, if this is where the conversation is going to go, we don't need to have it, or that is going to be, unless it gets so vitriolic where it's just like, it's social media. You have the ability to mute or block whomever you want for whatever reason you want, and you owe them no explanation for it. So make social media what you need it to be. So if it's unhappy because your feed is full of, horrific things, maybe get rid of those horrific things. And I had someone come up to me at Milwaukee this last GP they had, and he said, it's incredible how you handle the people who are being negative. And I was just like, that's good. I try. Because in person, I'm like, punching the air and like, I'm being an idiot. But it makes me proud to know that I took the mental route of, maybe they're having a really bad day. I don't know what's going on in their life. I'm just the linchpin for their current aggression. I can
Sure.
take criticism, obviously. People are very critical of what I do, but to be able to try to break through that, I'm sorry you're having a bad day, without saying I'm sorry you're having a bad day. Let's get to the actual discussion and see if there's something there, and then potentially part on more dulcet terms, which would be great. So it's just realizing, you know, um, when to engage something like that, and when you know it's just going to be cyclical after tweet 3, and you're going to mute the thing, or you're just going to, throw in your hat. And that just comes with just being on social media all the time. But yeah, to answer the question in a roundabout fashion, it's extraordinarily humbling to know that for some reason 9,000 plus people have hit the I want to follow this guy. That number doesn't. It's not a real number. Like I was ecstatic when I hit like 300. Like there's 300 people here, because I came from the forums, which was like 20 people. So 300 is great, and then it's now. But you just stay at it for that long. Been doing it a very long time now. So it's just every new wave of players that comes in and sees something joins up, and it's just like, man, this is remarkable. I don't know how people with like 30,000 or 500,000 people can manage their feed whatsoever.
I think at that point you just can't think of it as actual people on the other side of that follow button, because that would just drive me nuts.
Yeah, you can't interact, right? Because
Right.
if you
Yeah.
interact with one person out of 500,000, they're going to be like, "That's my best friend. I'm going to talk to this guy all the time." And you're just like, "I just wanted to say that I liked your comment."
Right. You're like 28,000 of these are bots. Like you can't be real. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even someone like me, small potatoes. I'm almost at 1,000 followers on Twitter. I'm like, that's just weird. I don't know.
It snowballs, and you'll get there. I mean, you get to 1,000, you're probably going to get to 2,000 just from what's going to happen. You get to 2,000, you get to 5,000. I can't believe I'm potentially getting into the 5-digit range. It's just like, do people read what I'm doing? Like, I'm not worth this. I'm glad you like the stuff, but I'm not that cool. I'm boring. I'm really boring.
And to piggyback a little bit off what you were saying, just as far as scaling back to interactions negatively on social media, it just is definitely an experience thing. Because even when I was like fresh on Twitter, I wanted to jump into all the phrase. I wanted to jump into all the comment section to be like, "Oh, you think I'm stupid? Well, here's why you're wrong," and then expect a different response than what you get. No, I'm going to change this person's mind, and they're literally telling you to just like go drown yourself in your own toilet, and there's no human being at that point anymore. So it's not for the meek. Like, you really have to figure it out, and the only way to do it is just to do it. And I understand people that don't. I understand people that are just like, hey, you put on a post that I didn't care about, even if it was an offensive, block, whatever. You can mold it in a way where it really isn't, impacting your life in a detrimental way. But yeah, again, thank you so much, Rafael Garcia, for the amazing patron question. This is now the end of the evening. We're going to do a quick game of Face the D20. So I have the proxy guy doing 20 questions. I have 20 questions for you, Josh. And these are non-magic related questions. I'm not going to ask you all 20. We're going to roll about 3 questions from your spin down. So each one of those numbers on the D20 correlates to a non-magic related question to know a little bit more about the draft behind the cards.
Sure. All right, we're using Aether Revolt.
Oh, okay. That's a horrible set.
It had inventions in it, therefore it was fine.
Oh, okay,
13.
fine. Lucky 13. What's the number one thing on your bucket list?
Oh. Unachievable or achievable?
Sure.
Achievable is Galaxy's Edge opens at both Disney parks like this summer, and one of the rides is literally sit in the cockpit of the Millennium Falcon.
Oh, that's awesome.
Like, and I will fight a toddler to be in one of the 2 pilot seats. Now, what I have going for me is I'm very tall. So if I'm in a group of 6 people, because there's 6 seats in the attraction, if I'm with 5 other Star Wars fans, I get to be the Wookiee, which means I get to be in the front seat, and I'll be fine with that. So, that's going to happen. That's going to be wonderful. That's just like, they did a thing in the museums way back when Star Wars was doing the national circuit, where they had a jump to light speed in the Falcon cockpit, but it was timed entries, and we got there like half an hour after the museum opened, and they were gone for the day. So I got to sit outside of it and look like down the hall, but I didn't get to go in there. So getting into the Falcon cockpit, and then in the land that it's in, they're going to have a full mock-up. Yeah. Like, it's just going to be me and a whole bunch of other 40-year-old guys weeping openly because we're looking at the Millennium Falcon. Like, it's real, it exists. It's going to be unbelievable. Other than that,
I didn't know you were such a Star Wars guy.
Oh yeah, grew up with it. Much more Star Wars than Star Trek, probably because it was just so ingrained. Like the first science fiction movie I saw in the movie theater was The Empire Strikes Back. So, yes, I was 4, 5 years old. It doesn't matter, but the best experience I've ever had in a movie theater was opening night of Return of the Jedi. I was 7.
I was just born. That was the year I was born. It came out.
Nothing will ever top that night. Nothing. It's literally impossible because movie crowds aren't the same anymore. But bucket list. Oh, I think a Magic bucket list would be at some point like owning Power again. That would be a big one. And it would be weird because it would just sit there. I don't think I would use it, but it would be like, hey, I used to have these and now I have them again. A life one would just be, maybe make someone else smile from time to time. I don't really
I think you've achieved that on a daily basis.
Yeah. Well, but it's nice to know and to keep striving towards it. It's I've traveled, not much, but I've done it. So yeah, my big huge aspirations, like, would I want to work for Wizards? Probably not, for what we mentioned earlier. If they came to me and said, here's a ridiculous amount of money to design cards and you don't have to move to Seattle, I'd be like, I probably have to take that. And then the proxy guy as a ethos would go away because there's no way they're letting me do both.
You just be the guy. Yeah.
Yeah, the guy. The playtest guy. They'd have to make me.
Sure.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I'm like I said, I'm boring. Big, huge, wonderful things. Is continuing as it is because I wouldn't trade what I have right now for anything. And putting something more into that is going to make it different in a way that I can't necessarily control, and that's a little scary.
God, you know how rare that is? That is quite an achievement. That's
winning the lottery, I'll say that. Everybody wants to win the lottery, but no one would know if I won, honestly, except I would buy Power. Like, I don't think I would move. I would get out of debt, and then it would be fantastic to just like gift things constantly. Just be giving it away. Oh, you need a car, or you want that deck for Friday? It would be like, what's your LGS's phone number? That'd be so much fun to do. And they just show up and be like, I guess I have a deck here. And they're like, yep, and it's foil. Like, oh, that would be so amazing. I would have so much fun doing that. So much fun.
All right. Another roll on the old spin down, sir.
5.
Number 5. A hidden talent not a lot of people know about you.
I played ice hockey.
You and Jason Alt, man. That's awesome.
I'm 6'10" on skates.
Jeez. I think you were supposed to play on the hardwood.
Yeah.
Not the ice.
Let's see. I used to be able to dunk a basketball, but now I'm too old. That would be like what I should do at 6'7". I don't know. I honestly, hidden talent. I don't just sit there and be like, hey, I can do this thing that other people can't.
What position did you play in hockey?
I was a forward.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I grew up and I was always enamored with the game, but I never watched it because it wasn't on TV. I would get black and white books out from the library about it, and I'd be like, I still don't understand the rules. And then in high school, they started a hockey club, not a team because the school said we're not giving you any money. So our jerseys had the mascot, but not the school name. We weren't official. But I learned to skate in like 6 months to be able to make the team.
That's awesome.
Like, I am playing hockey. And people are like, why aren't you playing basketball? Because I want to play hockey. So, and I had a blast doing it. You can't fly on the ground You can't get that sensation better than skating full speed.
Man, how intimidating would that be to a 6'7" forward and across from you on the ice? Oh my god!
So, and I was 6'7" in high school, 180 pounds, so I was very tall and very small around.
Yeah.
I remember face-offs, and it's high school, so there's kids that are like, 5'2". There's this big disparaging gap.
Yeah.
I had refs ask me what they were feeding me, and I had one kid come up to me at the face-off, center ice. He looked over at me, he looked up at me, and he backed off 4 feet. And I'm not like aggressive. He was just like, that guy's literally twice my size. So, but I wasn't a strong skater. But man, that's my game.
Is it really as awesome being as tall? I've never met a tall person that said it sucks.
I don't know, because I don't remember being short.
I mean, I bet, being normal height or average height like myself, I'll never know the experience of like knocking my head against a door.
Everything.
Yeah.
I don't think I would trade it. I like the novelty of it. Like my wife notices, like, there's a lot of people staring at you. I'm at the point in my life where I don't notice if people are like turning their head as I'm walking by, and they're like, man, that guy's tall. I like being able to reach things that are very far away, except my feet, because they're very far away. I guess I know all the bonuses without, like, I don't need step ladders for things. I guess that's cool. It's very hard to work out though, because my limbs are so long that it's just like driving yourself nuts and seeing no gains because you have physically more muscle to do. It's just different. It's fun. One of the things I will say on Hidden Talent is I can do extraordinarily random things frequently. Like if you drop a nickel on its side and it stays, it's like 1 in a zillion, right? Like you can win the lottery. I've done it. I've like legitimate done it, not like tried to do it.
That's crazy. Wow.
I was in a drive-through and we got like milkshakes or something, and I was driving, and you pull forward and they have, I don't know why they have it, they have a garbage can immediately after. Every drive-through has it. Pull forward 10 feet, there's a garbage can in case you finished in 10 feet. And I had my straw, and I put the window down, and I blew the paper off the straw, right? And it floated up, and it landed on the edge of the garbage can. Perfectly balanced, like stayed there.
Jeez.
Like, that I can do that. Which means I won't ever win anything because I'm doing harder to do things randomly. So
you're a superhero.
That's a hidden skill. Do something extremely difficult without realizing that I've done it.
Nice. Yeah. Hey, a talent is a talent, my friend. Yeah, that's Face the D20. How do you feel?
I'm good. If you have time for one more, I can roll.
All right, let's do one more. Let's do one more
for fun. 11.
11. You already answered this. We're re-roll. We're gonna do a mulligan because that was MCU or Star Wars. I assume that you would pick.
Both are great.
Yeah,
I enjoy both. Star Wars holds more of a place in my heart simply because I grew up with it. But the MCU I absolutely adore. I think they did an amazing job of it, and we're not going to see another series of movies probably ever that can keep the casts together for that long and produce that much entertainment. Whether or not you think the films are good, they are absolutely entertaining.
I think everyone's taking it for granted too because we're experiencing it and it's been going on since Iron Man, and everyone's just like, oh, comic book movie fatigue, but it's just like, no, appreciate. It's like watching Jordan play.
Yes, it's so good.
Yeah, it's just like absolutely, like the worst one is Thor 2, and think about that if that came out in the 90s.
Iron Man 3 is worse than Thor 2.
I appreciate
okay, Thor 2, therefore Iron Man 3 is worse.
Fine. Yeah, I don't know, man. I liked Ben Kingsley in Iron Man 3. I did not like not Guy Ritchie. What's his name? Guy that spoiler alert, he winds up being the Mandarin, kind of. Guy Pearce. Woof. Yeah, that kind of screwed up, but Yeah. All right. Yeah. One more roll. We won't count that. That was a
8.
half measure. Number 8. If you could have dinner with any dead celebrity, who would it be?
Douglas Adams.
I'm drawing a
Everyone's
blank.
going. 4 people just jumped up and down screaming they're so happy. Everyone else was like, he wrote Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Oh, okay. Okay. Whew, okay.
It would be like him or Frank Herbert, but I think I would have more fun with Douglas Adams. I think Herbert was probably a bit more intense. But you can't fault someone that wrote Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, wrote for Doctor Who, and for Monty Python. Like, come on.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
That would be good. What would you order?
See, I would be in, what would I order? I would order 5 or 6 lightly fried eggs, which again, 4 people understand, and everyone else is like, wow, that doesn't make any sense. And the 4 people are going, it's supposed to be like 1 billion lightly fried eggs.
Yeah.
It would have to be something that caught his attention, I suppose.
Sure.
But yes, the first time I read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, I read it cover to cover and was in tears. I was laughing so hard. It's exactly my brand of humor. It's fantastic.
And then when the movie came out, you were in tears for a different reason.
No, I actually enjoyed it.
Did you really? Okay.
Yes. Because they couldn't really they didn't need to do the book, because the BBC serial television program and radio did literally letter for letter the book, and they did it for the time very well.
Mm-hmm.
The movie changed it enough, and I mean, the cast is just ridiculous, like literally ridiculous. Henson's effects are absolutely, I mean, it's adorable. It's just,
Right.
It's not Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, the book, but it is a fantastic Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy story. Yes, I enjoyed the movie tremendously. I loved it.
That's awesome. No, I liked it as well. It's just, when you are, the Dark Tower was my thing, and then when I saw it, I was like, oh, they just destroyed something inside of me that I was a long time fan of, like my entire life. Pretty much, I was reading this, or even like the sort of, go to even less known, like the Sword of Truth series from Terry Goodkind. They tried to do a show, and it was kind of almost done like a Hercules or a Xena, but worse. And it's, when they just shit on your thing, it kills you, right?
Yeah.
But, and I'm not saying they did with Hitchhiker. It's just like you said, very not the book.
Yes, and it has its moments of it, and but they just did it really. I think Doug would have very much enjoyed the movie, and his face being the last thing you see in the movie is a very good thing, also.
Absolutely.
And yeah, they didn't need to do more of them. Anyone that knows the story knows what's going to happen next. So, yeah, it's just I'll still go back and rewatch it. I enjoy it every time.
And you didn't have Matthew McConaughey as the Man in Black. Oof. Any upcoming projects you could spoil or tease for the group before I let you go?
There's a big one coming up that's been in the works for a very long time, and that's probably every syllable that I can put into. like it's not often that I'm under an NDA. I'm under an NDA.
Nice.
That's an interesting thing. It's a really good project. I hope people will enjoy it. It's been a long time coming. I'm very, very excited for people to see it. It was a lot of fun. Other than that, like I said, I alluded to, there will be a Patreon something coming soon, I hope. It's with another content creator. We're doing something together that is I don't think has been done in the way we're doing it yet. So
excellent.
It's that one will be fun. Other than that, it's just plugging away, doing the weekly card. Every now and again, I get inspiration for something else, and I'll just crank it out. And if it's special enough, those are the ones that go on Patreon. If I'm like, this is something I've done and it's more unique, it'll be a Thursday extra on Patreon. Whereas if it's just, I wanted to do this card in a frame I've already done, I'll put that one on Twitter for everybody to see, because there's nothing new and exciting from my perspective there. So I don't need to just put content on Patreon to put content on Patreon. I want it to be something worth seeing the email and clicking into it and seeing something that you haven't seen before.
And I think your patrons really respect that and appreciate that as well.
They've done a very good job of upholding the don't post it for a week, and when I've asked, I've had polls from time to time, and they just say, we're supporting you. Whatever you want to do, we're on board with. You don't have to do this or that or the other thing. Do you? And it's been humbling and gratifying to have a group of people that are just willing to say, hey, we just want to help. It's just it's not something that I've ever been used to, so it's been a learning experience.
Absolutely. Josh, where can everyone find you?
You can find me on Twitter at TheProxyGuy, spelled exactly like it sounds. Patreon is patreon.com/TheProxyGuy. Like I said, I'm very original. Twitter's absolutely the best place to hit me up. I'm there all the time. Unless you're asking to buy cards, I will probably respond to a DM. If you ask, I will probably delete it without even saying, no, I'm sorry. And I might blow you up outside, but I'll take your name out. Just so when new people join on, sometimes it has to be said, no, I don't sell them. And then some people will say, why do you keep saying that? Because people keep asking.
Yeah, don't be that person. Don't be that person.
Yeah, you want to make me a very sad giraffe very quickly. Expect to be able to give me money for proxies. It's not going to happen.
Oh, geez.
But that's the best part of my side of it is I can just say it's not going to happen. They can't give me money and then I send them something. It's like, I'm one person.
Yeah.
If I say no, I get to say no. So
let me speak with your manager. Yeah.
I'll just put on a hat.
Yeah.
Fake mustache. Be like, you had a problem?
Hey, that worked for really well for another content creator. But anyway, this was fantastic. Thank you so much, Josh, the proxy guy, for planeswalking in. Before I let you all go, I just want to beg you to go to cardsphere.com, simply the best place to buy, sell, and trade your paper Magic the Gathering cards online. Head on over to inkedgaming.com, enter promo code Hive Mind MTG. You don't just have to get Hive Mind playmats or 10th Street Hooligan playmats. You can get, and that discount applies for everything, so 10% off. Fabulous things. I think they start doing t-shirts now, dice bags, all that great stuff. Binders. Directly support the channel by becoming a patron, like Rafael Garcia did tonight. You got to ask a question for the other fabulous guests that I have planeswalking in on this very show. If you want to listen to this in podcast form, do so on constructedcriticism.com. That is where you could find the Hive Mind exclusively on that website. You can find me personally. Hit me up on Twitter at OrzovDone. I love talking about Magic. I love talking about movies. I love talking about Magic in movies. It's anything you want. Cartoons. I'm very accessible, and I love talking anything, I guess, nerd culture related, or beer. I like alcohol as well. But until next time, Planeswalkers, I'll see you all in the multiverse.